We're live, we're live. Good afternoon and welcome to this live Q&A session. I'm Marcela Moyano. I'm the Communications Director of United International College. And today I'm really happy to be with Attorney at Law, Daniel Funes, and UIC's Academic Director, Angelica Moyano. Welcome to this Q&A.
Thank you, Marce. We had a very good topic to talk about the Trump changes to student immigration. And as everything with immigration right now is changing so quickly that now the law has been lifted, we'll go into detail and we'll keep answering questions and speaking about related topics.
Great, great.
So thank you, Marce. We're very excited to be here, very happy to be sharing information with our audience. And yes, as Daniel said, everything changes very quickly, but we're on top of the game and we'll try to give you precise information.
Awesome. So our topic for today is how to maintain an F1 status in the United States. So do you want to start this conversation with maybe giving an overview of what an F1 status means?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe, so I'll start, I think, maybe from the lawyer perspective, and then we'll hear Angie, obviously from the school perspective.
Sure.
As you mentioned, I'm an immigration attorney. A lot of my clients come to the United States, either an F1 visa and are studying, or in many cases, people enter with a different status. And then once they're here, they decide that they want to pursue an opportunity of education. So they change their status from any other status to F1 student status. So the F1 allows a person to attend college and, more importantly, to stay legally in the United States while the duration of their education. So we help clients with all the little intricacies that come from being in that status. Yeah, that's like a pretty, 30,000 foot overview of what an F1 visa does.
Mm-hmm. And what about, from the academic?
And for our academic side, so first of all, I want to say that it's great to work with Daniel because we help each other, and this has been great, changing the status and helping our students to maintain their legal status in the United States. When you want to study, you don't want just the visa. You want to, to come to the United States for a career gives you the opportunity to have the visa. But the first thing that you want to decide is which career you want to do. It can be English as a second language to begin with, and then you can transfer to an associate or a bachelor degree program. You must come to class. Don't think that having an F1 visa is just doing the whole process with Daniel and then you don't show up to school. It doesn't work like that. You must be in full attendance, full time. Another very important part is that you must be on SAP, which is Satisfactory Academic Progress. If you have a CGPA below 2.0, you become your status become probatory. So that means that you have one more term in order to bring up your GPA. Otherwise, your visa will be terminated. So I think I love the student visa. I think it's very flexible, very nice. But you have to study. You have to really study, and you have to make sure that you comply with academics so you get good grades.
Great.
Yeah. So Marce, I wanted to add that on a personal note, I came to the United States with an F1 visa.
Remember that.
Yeah,
that's really important.
I moved as an 18-year-old, first time living away from my parents and going to study, and given those free liberties, maybe your first time not living under your parents' house or something like that. They always had to remind me, hey, you have to actually attend class. Because if you don't, then you risk that of falling out of status. And recently, I think maybe within the last year or year and a half, they've been, becoming tougher and tougher on students.
Yes.
So for example, before, if you didn't go to class, it was still a problem. But now you can be considered out of status from the day that the school says, hey, he hasn't been attending class, whether the student was notified or not. So students have to be very careful. I always tell my students, go talk to Angelica, always be, United College, International College has a great thing that has open doors policies for a lot of people. A lot of schools don't. So I always tell people, take advantage of it. If you have a school that has open policy, always be in constant contact with your international student advisor. So that, it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, and that's really important that as an attorney, you also have the experience of being an international student. So it's very valuable. Okay, so I want to remind our audience who are following and who are following this conversation to post your questions under that comment box so that we can answer the questions right now during this panel. And then, we enhance this conversation. So let's answer some questions that we received from some of our students and some of our international community here in South Florida and in the United States. So one of the first questions that recently came up out of this news release from President Trump is if students had to come. So the question is, do we have to go on campus, or is it okay to take classes online to keep our F1 status? So that's the first question.
Yeah, so this would have been a more interesting question had
last week.
Yeah, last week, had the White House not, at the end of the day, hey, we'll take it. We'll take the change. It's, it's a good change. I'm glad that they went back on their regulation. So now students can still be in valid F1 status, even if they're doing 100% online. As we know, I don't think it was out of the goodness of Trump's heart that he changed the law. He received a lot of pressure from universities, from student organizations, from attorney organizations. So that's why they changed back. And to go back to the question, you can be in a valid F1 status, whether you're doing online, on campus, or some type of hybrid.
Okay. Okay.
And I want to add just a little thing. The decision of going back on campus or not is made by the school. So your school will let you know, okay, because we are in a state that has not so many cases, or like everything is getting better, we're going back on campus, and you should follow those instructions. In our case, we're not going back on campus anytime soon, at least for the summer term that we just started this week. We're doing everything online, and I'm really excited. I'm really happy that the law changed again, because I thought it was going to be really difficult to be on campus, given the situation right now.
Considering the pandemic, this next question, I don't know how we can address the next question, considering the situation we're going through. So it reads, if I am overseas, can I come to the USA as an F1 student to take online classes?
Yeah, that has a couple different options, I think, because right now, most of the consulates in the world are closed. So if this person asking the question doesn't have an F1 status yet, but maybe they applied for a school and they were set to go to an interview at a consulate to get the F1 stamp, most likely, well, it depends on where they live, but a lot of Latin America is not going to open. Some countries are set to open in mid-September in Latin America, South America, but it'll be depending on your local regulations, local laws, whether the U.S. consulate is going to open. So that could be one variation of the question. If the person maybe they left the country, but they already had an F1 already active. They had their I-20, they signed it because they were leaving the country. They could probably come back if their country is open and allows international travel, because the United States is not permitting, for example, citizens of Brazil right now, they can't come in. So there's a lot of variations on the question, but on that immigration, that's what I think how I would answer.
And a solution in that case, for example, right now, we have one student that is in Colombia, one student that is in Albania. They both applied to come to the United States on September. They're not going to be, I mean, they can start classes on September online if they want to. So that's another solution. You know, students can start their classes. They won't have an F1 active yet because it hasn't been approved. But, you know, if you want to study, they can, you know, start studies from their country and then come back or, you know, come in whenever is permitted. So that, yeah, and right now we also have another situation of a student who's in Venezuela. She's in Venezuela with an active student status because she left the country being a student, and her plan was going to be to come back after, you know, after a while. So before she was able to come into the country, the situation happened and she had to stay in Venezuela. Now she's taking online classes, which is permitted, and her status is still active. But this is because she had a status before. Like you cannot start an active status, you know, from your country. You can start studying and then your status will be active once you're here.
And
yeah, so I think that is the important thing to keep in mind for students that already attained an F visa, either traveled before the pandemic or at the beginning of the pandemic thinking, oh, maybe I'd rather be in my home country during this pandemic. The important thing for them to remember is that they have to enlist in online classes, because the previous thing that we spoke about, if a student is not active and is not enrolled, then they will lose F1 status. So they have to enroll in school, attend online from their country, and that's the way that they'll maintain their active F1. So when the airports do open, they can claim that they're in an active F1 status. So it seems like that's what they will have to do in order to keep the F1 active while overseas.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense, Angie?
Correct. Yes, correct. That's what's actually happening right now.
Yeah. It's all new stuff. We're kind of like discovering all new, I mean, not only in immigration, not only in school, just in
the new normal.
In the new normal. Yeah. I didn't want to say that because everyone's saying that. But yes.
The new normal in terms of immigration.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So what if I'm a tourist and I can't leave the country because of the pandemic? Can I become a student?
Yeah, so that's, you know, I always tell clients that if they're in B1 status, especially right now, they can't go back to their home country because they can't travel. It's separated into two pretty big categories. One are citizens from countries that require a B1 visa. So if they're in a B1, they can file for an extension. It's a tricky situation because the answer from immigration on that change of status is taking 9 to 12 months.
Yeah.
It's difficult for them to understand that maybe they're asking for a 6-month extension, but they won't know if it was approved or not until those 6 months that they requested expires, because it's taking 9 to 12 months to get a decision. So I tell them, you're staying in limbo. You know, try to follow the laws, file the extension before your original extension, your original stay expires, to make sure that you're safe. And from our experience, I think most applications, most extensions of visa are being approved I mean, what better reason than, hey, I can't travel, right? So that's for B1 visa holders. The other big category is for people from countries that have the visa waiver program. The biggest example, most of Europe, Chile, for example, in Latin America, those people, they cannot file an extension of a visa waiver program. So what they have to do is ask for satisfactory departure. That's, you go to the airport and you tell them, I can't travel, and they kind of grant you that you departed the country in a good way, in a satisfactory way, yeah. So then it won't affect you later. So those two types of people have to be very careful. Timing is very important, and yeah, we've done a lot of those in the last, since March, because travel has been, stopped.
Okay, so
something that I wanted to add to that is that it's very important to be able to work with a lawyer in this situation, because I'm not a lawyer. Like, people come to me and ask me these questions, and I know how to answer them, but like, I do prefer that a lawyer manages these cases. So some schools, have like their in-house admission representative, and they manage all these changes of status and extensions, and it's just not safe. Because, like, I don't think, I think you're better represented by a lawyer that actually has experience in doing these than just, keep doing your extensions by yourself. I think you're safe.
Angie, I think what you mentioned is so important, because unfortunately, people, in South Florida, like you said, there's people that mean well from the maybe student departments. There's also a lot of, people that are attorneys in Colombia or attorneys in Honduras or attorneys in Nicaragua, and then they represent themselves here as paralegals or notarios. And at the end of the day, we have to clean up a lot of their work. A big chunk of our clients that come, they come with RFEs, which are requests for evidence, because simple things were not sent originally. And if there's something that we know with immigration, is that once they kind of, you're in the radar of doing something wrong, next time they grab your your application, they look at it with like a magnifying glass, and they're looking, because they already know that maybe you didn't do a complete filing or something like that. So the cheap stuff comes out expensive. Lo barato sale caro, right?
Correct.
Because and what you think maybe you're saving time later gets prolonged because it wasn't filed correctly. So find an attorney near you that has experience in these types of situations, and I think that's the safest way to do it.
Right. So we mentioned here that in order to become a student, if you're a tourist or you have another status, you can do a change of status, but then not to forget that they have to also do an extension before that change of status is approved, because I've heard that it happens a lot that approval doesn't get approved as quickly as people know, and maybe they're put in a not ideal situation. So just go to a lawyer. Just be advised by a lawyer. Okay, so we have also another question that it's regarding transferring. I have a student who says, can I transfer to another college? Or can I transfer my I-20 to UIC?
I have a short, because I'm going to let Angie, she's much more knowledgeable on this part. My short is, they can, it happens all the time. But Angie, would you tell us like what the details of that, how that process goes?
Sure. It's a really simple process. Yes, you can transfer. So like, to answer the question, it's yes, you can transfer your I-20 to UIC or to any other college. Very important to comply with the admission process, because remember, there's two processes when you change school and when you start at school. There is the legal process where you have to show your sponsor. Remember that you must show funds for the first 12 months that you are in the country. So for example, in Unilatin, in United International College, sometimes we ask for $22,000, which means that it's not that you have to pay $22,000. It's you have $22,000 in your bank account because you're going to be in the United States for 12 months and you're going to live with those $22,000 and you're not going to be working illegally. So that, as far as immigration, always, make sure that you comply with everything that the school asks you, and also with the admission requirements, whether it's a high school diploma or your proficiency test or whatever it is. Very important to know the dates, because sometimes people get confused. You cannot, when you change schools, you cannot be without a class or without attending school for more than 5 months, because you immediately will come out of status. Right after a student finishes, for example, an associate degree program, they have 60 days to transfer or to re-enroll, right? And then when they come to the next school, they say, okay, we're in summer term right now, so we cannot start classes right now. We'll start classes on September. Okay, make sure that is no more than 5 months, because if it's more than 5 months, you will be out of status. Other than that, it's a simple process. The school will issue your new I-20, and then you'll have an I-20 with a new program and a new school.
Awesome. We have a question also regarding change of status, and it's about how can people change their status from F1 visa to another status?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that happens, all the time, because people's situation change. But a J1 allows you to change either to certain green cards, or it allows you to change to, there are certain people that come in maybe to study a language, but they have a previous degree. So they can do that change of status to that. Of course, they have to meet all the requirements of that other status in order for the transfer to be correct. And that's something that we can help, absolutely.
Awesome. We have with us connected Lilith Muradian, and Lilith has a few questions, and probably we already touched on some of them, but the first one, which I think, Lilith, thank you so much for connecting with us. But of course, this is the buzz, and everybody's talking about this announcement by President Trump. And of course, I'm sure that as international students, everybody was panicking and everybody was like, they didn't know what to do. But Lilith is asking, is it true that international students should, okay, so she's asking now, is it true that international students should not leave the USA because of online education? So if you can.
So I think this question is based on that regular. I'm not even sure how long the regulation lasted, maybe less than a week.
Less than a week, yes.
Less than a week. So since that's been scrapped, it's not really as relevant. But I think it is suggested if you're in an F1 and you want to stay in the US, you definitely can. I think an interesting question, I haven't heard anyone ask me, because people usually want to stay close to their school. Most people, I think, prefer, well, some people prefer online, some people prefer on campus. But can a person leave the United States, be registered, and take classes online if that's what they wanted? Let's say they wanted to do that. I think for now, because it's online, the answer would be yes. They could be doing online classes from their country and maintain their F1. That's an interesting question. I haven't heard that asked too much, but from what my understanding is that they can do that. Yeah.
Oh, Lilith has another question. If I came to the USA as a tourist and then I got student status, what if I leave the country, if something happened to my relatives or anything, and if I have to see them, to go and see them, can I come back or I will lose my status? So if she has to go to her country.
Right. I think it's a similar response. I think it'll depend, especially right now, if she's enrolled in school. So if she's enrolled in school, taking classes online, goes back to her country to visit her family, but is meeting online attendance, I believe that technically she is
Still active.
maintaining her F1 status,
Yeah.
and she would be able to come back. That's technically. Practically, I wouldn't suggest it. Practically, because look, Trump could come back tomorrow and go like, hey, you know what? Never mind. I'm going back to, it's things are very unstable right now. It's an election year. Let's not forget that the U.S. is politically divided, and a lot of these executive orders that we're listening to are politically driven. So I don't think anyone would be surprised if next Monday President Trump goes like, you know what? I actually like my first idea better.
No,
Let's
please,
do
no.
it. No,
No.
let's not knock on wood. But I wouldn't be surprised. So my advice to anyone, to all is stay put, stay in the United States, because you don't know what's going to change. Don't take a risk. Stay in the country.
I think that
I'm going to add something to that. Like their regulation says, when you leave the country, for example, if the student tells me, okay, I finished the summer term, I want to go back to my country and be with my family for 3 months. It's okay, you can do that. So we'll sign a paper. Remember, the I-20 has 3 sections, three pages. The second page must be signed by the PDSO of the school, in that case, me. That means that we are acknowledging that the student has left the country. They're not going to study outside, and they're going to come back into the country in less than 5 months. This is a normal situation, right? Like when the student, when there's no pandemic and there was nothing else, under normal circumstances, the student will leave the country, spend 3 months, 4 months, and come back to start the following term. Remember again, 5 months or more, your status gets canceled.
Now, I think that I heard also that if students get their visa here in the United States and they go back to their countries, they have to go to the embassy of their
Oh,
country
maybe that was her question, yes.
and get a stamp on their passport. And I think that's what
That's where she's coming from.
jeopardizes the
Because
process.
she did a switch
Maybe
from tourist.
maybe it's not as safe as get it stamped in their country. Maybe it can be denied. It's what I've heard, and you're the experts, but I think that's what makes some students nervous to go back because they got their visa in the United States.
Right. So yeah, that part where she said, "Oh, I
because she got the visa B1 here." Yeah,
that's what changes the complete answer.
It changes everything.
Yeah, it changes everything. In that case, don't go.
Don't go.
Don't go. Because especially some countries have more difficulty making an appointment or getting a visa approved under normal circumstances. Add to that we're in a pandemic and that country might not be open. If it does, let's say it is reopened, although consulates haven't, but when it does, they're going to have a 4, 5, maybe 6 month delay when they were closed. It's going to take that person a long time to even get an appointment. And all that, like Angie said, those 5 months off is going to kick you out of the visa. So even more so advised, don't leave the country.
I have had some cases of students that decide to leave a country anyways, because they're, I don't know, like they have paperwork to do or emergencies, and a couple of them have been denied. So, plan well. How about you want to, finish your studies and probably get a work visa in the future. But yeah, it's a risk. I tell the students I cannot promise anything. Like, we can write a letter, we can provide transcripts, attendance records, and, we can show everything that we have, testificating that like you're a student, that you're a legal student in the United States. But like that's completely up to the immigration officer who takes the case, and it's really 50-50.
Right, like we say, the agent at the consulate it's at their discretion. And they can make that decision.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have, and thank you so much to all our students and all our followers who are following and are listening and watching this conversation. You are making it great. So thank you so much for joining us today. We have Ned, thank you for your question. And I'm sorry, I couldn't get back to you. And this is the perfect place to answer your question. Lilith and Ned had the same question. And this question is so relevant for international students. They want to know if an international student can work legally in the United States, and if not, can at least they work on the university campus.
So I'm
what's
gonna
the answer?
address the first part of the question, whether they can work, and then I'm gonna let Angelica kind of discuss more the alternative. Can I work on campus?
That's why we are a great team.
Yeah, exactly. And mine's very short. The answer is no. As an international student with an F1 visa, the F1 does not come with a portion, so employment authorization. So if they're an F1 visa, it's very, I stress on my clients, do not work. Do not work. You don't have authority to work. Illegal working can completely kick you off the F1 visa. It would be a violation of the visa. And as we mentioned earlier, about a year ago, they said that any violations of your student visa starts adding illegal stay on the day of the violation. So it can have a big effect on someone with a student visa. So that's the long answer. The short answer again is no.
Okay, so on campus, people tell me, can I work on campus? Yes, you can, but we don't have, 250 jobs. So as we go, and like we try, we do our best. Most of our our staff members are students, and we love working with our students because of one simple reason: they know what UIC is about. So training is easier. Yeah, and they're here already. So we love hiring our students, and that's always our first choice. But unfortunately, we don't have a job for everybody. So those who are interested can send us the resume to humanresources@unilatina.edu. And, depending on openings that we have, we can consider. There's something called OPT, which is optional practical training. I don't know what's going to happen with the OPTs, Danielle. This year, I have had 2 of them denied. And in the past, there were like years that went by with no denials at all. However, unless everything changes, students might request a work permit 3 months before they graduate from the institution. So if you're going to graduate on December, get your OPT paper by September, and we submit all the paperwork, which is, that's really simple, which is the work permit authorization. Submit the payment and wait for them to say yes or not. Now, this is the thing. If they say, like, we have to do it in advance, 3 months in advance, that way we have at least 5 months. Because remember that when you graduate from a college, you have 2 months of a grace period. So if you send it 3 months in advance, so that will be like those 3 months plus the 2 months that you have of a grace period. And sometimes they take 6 months, 7 months, 9 months. When they take less than 5 months and they say no, we still have a chance, because immediately I can re-enroll you in a program and you can go back to school under a legal status. But if after those 5 months they say no, that's when we have a problem, because we have to reinstate your student status and help you continue working on your studies. But the OPT is a good chance. I think it's a very good opportunity. But I don't know, Daniel, if you have any other information about what's happening. I heard that like they were reviewing it.
So of course I'm a big fan of the OPT program because I received an OPT. That's what allowed me to find an employer who actually sponsored me for an H-1B visa. And I was able to work here for 3 years, and I extended. And that was the bridge for me to go from a student to stay, to still be here. So I'm a big fan of the program. I think the United States, policy wise, they have to find a way to make that happen, because we already know how many hundreds of thousands, maybe million international students that are, one, they're paying for education, they're getting trained, they're getting educated. We can't let this talent go back home or go to Canada. Canada is competing for talent with the United States all the time. I know a lot of people don't want to go because Canada is so cold and it's so far. People like to stay in the United States. They maybe have families. So I think something needs to be done to create a strong OPT program. Of course, right now, the biggest challenge is that because of the pandemic, unemployment is really high. And it's a good time. It's not that unemployment is the reason. Unemployment is the excuse that people who are anti-immigrant in the United States are using it as a sword, as a weapon to say, like, oh, we can't allow immigrants to stay here. We have high unemployment. They've been saying that when unemployment was very low. They're saying it now that it's high. They're always going to say it. So politically, something needs to be done. I think it's too early to tell what's going to happen because the elections are in November. A lot of people are graduating, either they graduate in May or they're graduating in December. So that's something that we just have to keep an eye on. And, that's an invitation for anyone to contact Angelica and get more information, contact me directly and get more information. And a good excuse to make another Zoom.
Another webinar.
Another session, yeah.
That's right.
So just to summarize on another option of employment, after you complete your associate degree, which is 2 years at UIC, you get you can apply for an OPT, and the OPT is 1 year. So all UIC students who complete their associate degree, they can apply for OPT and they can work legally in the United States for 1 year, which is great. I think that's a great opportunity for any international students living in the United States. And then they come back to study at UIC, they complete their bachelor degree, and when they complete their bachelor degree, they can again apply for OPT and work again for 1 year legally, and hopefully an employer will hire them and eventually grant them a work visa, which is how it should work and how we hope it will work for the students.
Marce,
So yeah.
Something right there that is very, 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 very important, extremely important. Your employment has to be related to your field, okay? Mm-hmm. If you went to school for communications and mass media, you cannot go and be, I don't know, the receptionist in a school. Okay, so every job that you get has to be related, and you have to be able to demonstrate that you're going to be using the skills you learn during your work of study in order to, you're going to apply those skills at work. Very important. Lately, as Daniel said, the OPTs have been a little bit more strict, and they're asking for more things, and they're implementing more things. Since we started doing the visas 15 years ago, probably, we did not have so many questions, and everything was faster. I remember getting the visas, Daniel, in 1 month. Mm-hmm. We would get an approval in 1 month.
Yeah.
We would not do extensions or anything. Now for the OPT, there is a new system called the student portal. And as soon as the student has an OPT approved, they have 90 days to obtain a job. And this job has to be reported to immigration. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions is, how is this job related to your studies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in order to go there and find a work in your field, it's really, really important. That's something that we always say in the classroom, to network. So, and now we're doing everything online, but we are having guest speakers in the classroom. So make sure that you connect with those guest speakers and really take advantage of the opportunities that your professors are giving you, because it's not just when you graduate, you're going to just make it when you graduate, but it's a process. So take advantage of the process. UIC offers a networking breakfast once a month. We have a networking breakfast. So if you want to build your network, start attending those networking breakfasts, so that when it's time to get your OPT and find a job, you already have contacts, professional contacts that can hire you. So all that is really important. Okay, we have another question from Ned, and it's great. Thank you so much to all our friends and students who are joining us. Jimena just joined, Caro Arenas is here, Ned, of course, and Elite, Ana Soja, our admissions representative, Gagan, Claudia, Joanna Vargas, Caro Bautista, Adilson, Fontran. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us and making this conversation so enriching for all of us. Okay, so Ned wants to know something really important. She wants to know, I'm not sure if we can answer this, but she wants to know about health insurance. How can students get a health insurance?
I'm going to leave that one to Angelica.
Okay, yes, students need to get a health insurance. We have a specialist on campus, usually. His name is Professor Carlos Bolivar. Maybe we can send his email, Marce. We can send her his email so she can contact him with various plans. Something that always happens with Mr. Bolivar is that students want to get Obamacare, but Obamacare is not available for non-USA citizens or residents. So very important, to get the right plan. You do need insurance. It's very important to have insurance too. We have seen some situations of students that maybe their insurance expired and they got sick, or they fell down, or they were ice skating and something happened to them. It's very well recommended to have insurance. Please make sure to call Carlos Bolivar. We have a couple more options that we can send to, but I think Carlos Bolivar is the expert in the field, and he can give you at least an initial quote, and then you go from there.
Yeah, something I will add there is in my office, we're solely immigration attorneys. That's all we do is immigration. But I do have a lot of colleagues from different fields. So if you maybe have that fall, or like last week, one of our clients called us, 19 years old, driving a motorcycle, no helmet, and he suffered a big crash. He's fine, but he of course it stayed maybe a couple of days in the hospital. You know how expensive that can be without insurance. But it's always good that if you are in a situation, an accident, a fall, something like that, you can speak to a personal injury attorney. We won't handle the case, but at least I can refer you to someone that we know, like, and trust to help you. So we're always a resource for that too.
So Lilith is asking, is it mandatory or it's not mandatory to have an insurance?
That's a difficult question.
To be a UIC student.
That's a very difficult question because it's not mandatory, but you should have insurance. Before, long time ago, they used to not give you the student visa if you did not have insurance. That changed. So it's not 100% mandatory, but it's very well recommended.
So yes, it's up to you. But again, if anything happens to you, you should have health insurance.
And I know that a lot of people that are studying, maybe their long-term, obviously the student visa is non-immigrant visa, but some people want to try and get a more permanent leeway to become a resident. And what I tell people, if they don't have insurance and for some reason they have to get some kind of assistance from the government, whether it be emergency Medicare or Medicaid, anything like that, it can be a problem later on, because now we have what's the public charge rule, which the United States asks people who are becoming residents whether they've had some government assistance or benefit. And a lot of the times that's when these things start kind of getting interconnected. I didn't have insurance, I had an accident, but I had to get assistance from the government to pay my hospital bills. Now I'm going to have issues, adjusting status. So all those things are connected. Just get insurance, right? That's the
That's the conclusion.
Yeah. Okay. We have Lilith also has another question. She wants to know if she could open a company like an LLC as an international student. Can you open a company as an international student?
Absolutely. And this is getting a little bit outside of the scope of the talk, right? But anyone, the United States, if anything, it's known for maybe less red tape, less bureaucracy than other countries. Anyone can open a company. I open companies for people who aren't living in the United States all the time. You don't need a social security number to open a company. The more important thing is figuring out what kind of company it is, how to incorporate it, and you can also apply for a tax ID for the company that can be used to open a bank account. That's very common for people to open. So yeah, no problem.
I want to add to that like our programs are very, very, very practical. So most of our students end up opening a company.
Yeah. So the idea of UIC, we focus on entrepreneurship. So as Angie said, most of the students end up opening a company, even in the communication field, because they become freelancers. So yeah, we encourage a lot those to develop that entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah. So yeah, please do not be sorry for I'm getting apologies on the chat for like the number of questions that we're receiving. And no, we encourage questions and we are grateful to all your questions because they really contribute to our conversation. Thank you, Professor Lamar, for joining us. This is what makes UIC a really enriching community and a true community. And we appreciate the support of attorney at law, Daniel Funes, of our brilliant academic director, Angelica Moyano, and our amazing students who represent so many diverse parts of the world and really are amazing in our classes because they really enrich the classroom. And of course, our faculty members were amazing. So if we don't have any more questions from our students or guests, we can conclude. Do you have any concluding comments?
My comments are keep informed, pay attention to the news because changes are coming and going. I know that you're in good hands with United International College, and thank you for having me. And it's really my pleasure to help people. Like I said, I'm very connected to the international student body just because that was my experience. That was my bridge to stay in this country and have a family and a career. So I feel very strongly about it. So if anyone has questions or anything, they can call my office 305-514-0503 or even send me an email at info@funeslawgroup.com. And any way I can help, we are here to help the community. Thank you.
Okay, so you said info@funeslawgroup.com. funeslawgroup.com. Awesome. And what's your number again? funeslawgroup.com and your phone number, please.
305.
Yes, 305.
514.
Sorry, 305. Yes.
514. 0503. 0503.
05.
03.
Okay, so I'm posting the information of Daniel here in our chat. Awesome. And we just shared with everyone his page, his Facebook page, so you can also follow him.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I also want to tell our
Angelica.
international students that we're here for you. The day that this news happened, that is not news anymore, everybody call me and text me and email me, and you're secure with us, okay? We love our international students. We love our international community. As Marcela said, it makes my job very, it enriches my job to be able to be in contact with so many people from many parts of the world. And as you see, we're also in good hands with Daniel, because, we can ask questions and we talk a lot, and we make sure that we're well informed, just to make sure that we help our students and we protect you, because that's what we're here for.
We were on the phone almost immediately with Angelica.
Yes,
Did you
do you hear this? Oh my God, what do we do?
Yeah, exactly. So it's team effort.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this will conclude our webinar. We appreciate you following us, and look forward to our upcoming webinars. This is fun, and
Yes.
yes, and we will offer more. So keep joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.